Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here, along with Rogan Smith. How are you, Rogan Smith?
I have a burst of energy.
Yeah, have a bosun.
I got a bosun.
Okay.
Do women get those?
I don't know. Have you only ever heard that in the case of penile circumstances? Yeah. Speaking of which, I had a thought, and I don't know if anyone else has thought of this, but you can tell me if you've heard it before.
What?
You know this ban on single-use plastics, right? How is that going to work for the condom world?
Rubber?
It's plasticky.
It's rubber.
It's single-use. It's as single-use as you could get.
It's rubber.
And I have a feeling you could choke a turtle.
It's rubber.
It's still.
I don't think they're going to put people's lives
It's still not
risk
biodegradable. Okay, I don't know. Are they? I mean, I don't know.
What do you say the condom is made out of?
Yeah, it's latex.
Hold on. They have different types. They have like sheepskin and all.
Yeah, but I don't think they
stuff.
work for nothing.
No.
I think that's only. I think they only work for pregnancy. It's just a thought.
Let's see.
You know what I mean? There's a global ban. Canada's doing it. We're doing it. By the way, we're ahead of Canada. We're doing it by 2020. Canada's doing it by 2021. So they're going to be a single use. This is a single use.
Like I said, it's the rubber, like the latex type of rubber.
It's latex, yeah.
So, and then the packets that they come in like aluminum.
Well, those
foil or
aluminum, but
something.
I'm just saying I don't know what is the biodegradable content of a
Let me see if
condom.
anybody's ever Googled this. How long does it take for a condom to
Decompose or break down, biodegrade? Because it's a concern I have for the turtles. Okay, because fellas would be on the beach. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean, Ken? Ken, no. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're a little silent here because Rogan Smith is researching condoms, and they're.
It's not biodegradable.
It's not biodegradable.
Even though some would consider.
In fact, you wouldn't want it to be biodegradable. You miss and pick up a biodegraded condom, it defeats the purpose, right?
Wow.
You want sturdy.
Latex condoms have a shelf life of 5 years from the time they were manufactured. Latex condoms with spermicide have an even shorter lifespan of 3 years.
Right, I mean, that's still turtle killing time. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think we're going to risk...
The brothers on the beach, man, Rogan Smith.
People dying.
And I'm saying, when all rules fly out the window, when it comes to Yajunga. They ain't banning that. Okay? Or they'll invent something tomorrow, like bamboo or something. Okay?
But you see a lot of restaurants already making changes.
Oh yeah, well they have to be prepared.
I don't like the new straws though. Oh,
I like
the paper ones or whatever.
That's how I grew up on waxed straws.
The minute you put them in the drink, you leave them there for a couple of minutes, boom. But I bought me the plastic ones, the permanent straws.
But I want to go back to this discussion that you thought was silly at the time. I think you ridiculed me about straws. Okay, why do we use straws? Okay, think about it. It's psychological because let's just think you go to a fine restaurant and you have at least 4 glasses on your table: a coffee cup, a wine glass, a water glass, and maybe a soft drink. Okay? You don't drink no coffee with no straw. You're not drinking your vino with any straw. And you're not drinking your water with a straw. But yet, for some reason, the cocktail or the soft drink has a different type of germ capacity, and we feel the need to use a straw.
Note that you said a fine restaurant. And
well, any restaurant.
If I go to an unfine restaurant, you
might as well just bring your own cup.
I question. I know I'd rather take the chance to clean off the little top where you pop to go inside. I clean that really good.
What?
On your soda. You know when you pop.
Oh yeah, you get a soda.
The thing
but
goes in.
A soda I can understand a little bit because you're dealing with a can that has been exposed to a thing. I'm talking about out of a glass. Okay, out of a glass. Let's think about this stuff because I think people don't think about it. Okay, when you use a straw, again, not out of a can, right? But let's just say out of and look what we choose to do. So the bottle we don't have a problem with. We screw off the top.
Well, that's only because I don't have a straw. I would be sucking out a straw from this bottle.
You'll be the only one. So the thing is, because people go like, look, she had a straw in a bottle of water, straw. Anyway, so.
Right?
So the thing I think is this. First of all, people don't realize where straws came from. and they were not designed for germ-proofing. Because if you think about it, if the glass is dirty, right? The fluid is touching the glass, and you're just sucking the germs through the straw.
Yeah.
Okay? The mere fact that your lip doesn't have direct contact onto the top of the glass means that it doesn't mean, because now the whole fluid is infiltrated with these germs in the glass that you now suck through a straw at a higher rate.
What was the purpose of the straw?
There were many purposes, but one of the purposes back in the, I think it was the 1800s or so, I can't remember, we can research it, is that when they made beer, by the way, the straw apparently goes back centuries, but when they first made beer, there was sediment in the beer, okay? So if you tried to drink it, the sediment would come into your mouth. So they used a straw so that you could drink the beer without sucking up the sediment. You see what I'm saying? So the sediment was to the bottom. You could just use the straw to the top and drink the beer without sucking up the stuff. Okay?
Listen, a brief history of how plastic straws took over the world. So it says a man named Marvin Stone was the first to file a patent for a drinking straw in 1888. The Smithsonian Institute cites a widely touted legend saying Stone was drinking a mint julep on a hot summer day in 1880 when his piece of ryegrass, then used as a straw, began to disintegrate. And I guess it goes on from there.
And that it's the same concept of the sediment in the drink. Okay? But it was never made for germs. Okay? By the way, I want to talk about ice in a couple of seconds as well. Okay? So
what is up with you today?
I just love this stuff. So the reality is straws. So when I drink freely out of the glasses now at restaurants. I don't give a damn. I mean, you drink it out of 3 glasses and not 1. It makes no sense.
I don't like drinking. To be honest with you, now that we're having this conversation, I don't like drinking out of glasses and like.
Well, if you're a germaphobe, it will freak you out.
But I eat out. I mean, I
eat off the plate.
But you know what I ask for a lot of times? Hot water.
And you wash the plate? Is that what you do? I'm asking. It's just a question. Do you bring your joy? Do you bring joy to the restaurant?
Baby.
Yes, baby.
They ain't bringing me a plain plate and setting it in front of me to clean it. I was talking about putting my fork and my spoon and my knife in the scalding hot water just to kind of like clean it off.
But again, let me ask you a question. If the plate itself is full of filth, then you're eating the filth off the plate with a clean thing. So my thing to you is you need to either bring your own plate or ask them if you can go in the kitchen.
But then,
so you could wash your own plate and bring it out.
What if the pot dirty in the back there?
What pot?
The pot when they cook it in.
Well, at least that's in heat. Justify things. At least it's heated up. It's heated up. Heat kills germs.
Let me ask you.
Just make sure they don't get from the bottom of the pot.
You go in the kitchen at Atlantis?
I have been.
Okay, they use like hot water when they clean up.
Yeah. When you have dishwashing, these are dishwashing machines.
Yeah.
And everything is scalded.
Okay. Perfect.
I mean, I know what the deal is.
Well, great.
Everything is scalded. But I'm just saying,
my favorite temperature.
This is the thing which you have to always remember. People like to scratch the butt. Just keep that in mind.
And talking over the food when they bring it to you.
Okay? People do things. Who's that my ear? Yeah, he had a plate. See the plate, yeah. So what I'm saying is, but you have to think that this is how you calm yourself. This is how you calm yourself. Think of the trillions of people who've eaten off of plates, and there's not been a plate epidemic yet.
Do y'all, when when you go to stay in hotels, do you like question like what people were doing in the bed before you sleep in it?
Yeah, certain sheets.
Certain sheets can't?
Yeah, that top sheet, you don't bother with that, man. Snaps that off.
How you know it ain't the bottom sheet you don't need to do? They might pull off the you don't know what you get.
Well, see, hold on. The top sheet was there from you and like 5 or 6 other visitors.
No, you just hope.
That's true. They don't change them like that.
You just hope the sheet was washed. That's all.
I always put like a little mark on something so I could see. I was in a hotel recently, and they said, we're trying to, conserve, water and all that stuff like that. Yeah. So they say if you don't want your sheets and stuff changed, just put it on the floor or whatever. And that same sheet, would I put that little dot on?
Was
there. So I told them, I said, you need to come back and change that.
Yeah, because I don't like my own germs.
Because I know that.
Yeah, the towels is a no-no too.
Well, what you can do?
You stop the
run around to dry yourself off.
You stop the Wally face.
Wally.
Get your towel and you get your deodorant and you get your.
Listen. Once again. When
he get a little ringworm,
there is not a global threat of towels. Okay? When that starts happening, everyone will know. Okay? Right now, they wash the towels. The towels are washed in hot water. It's just as germy as your own doggone towel. Okay, at your house. They wash it.
That's my germs. That's
yeah,
right.
it's your germs, and those germs are sometimes the waste.
There's some musty people that come in them hotels.
No, but not only that. I think of hotels, and I think, boy, a lot of suction pack fun going on in them hotels. That's what they do. But having said that, that's a concern I have. That people are not thinking through these things. Don't panic if you're drinking. If you have a problem, by the way, let me just say this to you. What you should have a problem with is not the glass that you're drinking out of, but the establishment you're drinking out from. Because if the establishment is funky, that's where you got to worry. You see what I'm saying? If you go to a decent establishment, that's why they have a lot of open kitchens and stuff now, Yeah.
Oh, my cousin just finished saying that he doesn't go to restaurants unless they have like an open kitchen.
Move that wall.
You
always say build a wall? Move the wall. Okay, so I can see what's going on. Okay? We'll be right back. Then I'm going to talk about ice. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. She lifted me on her back. I know it was a strain for her. Yeah, but it was a strain for you, and you'll feel it.
It was not a strain for
yes,
me.
It was, and you'll feel it. I was scared, but trust me.
I have the footage.
Someone who's 280, who is lifting someone who's being lifted by someone who is 255, should be afraid.
How am I 250? What?
I was teasing you. Anyway, I'm not going to give you the benefit of saying you're like 120.
No, I know 120. I weigh like 145.
Yeah, you weigh 145.
I weigh 145.
I think your breasts weigh 45. Okay? Now, having said that, okay, so that means the rest of you name one? No, sorry. Okay? So, we'll have to bring a scale. You know, travel scale? We'll bring a travel scale.
I think you might be right.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's a heavy set over there. You know how they have the thick set? That's the heavy set. Now, I want to talk about ice, which is another thing that intrigues me. Does ice intrigue you?
No.
I'll tell you why it intrigues me. Are you a fan of Western movies?
Some.
Okay. Has it ever occurred to you when you watch these Western movies, like they're in Tombstone, Arizona, and these places,
it's so hot.
And they go into the saloon after being out on the what do you call it, the range,
hot
all day,
sweaty.
caking up, sweaty, that their best refreshment is a glass of whiskey?
Right? That just make you hot.
No wonder they're shooting everything up. These are some pissed off hombres. Okay? They can't get a cool drink.
And they hot.
And you're in Tombstone.
Why don't they just go to the bathroom to bathe? Like, why are they always sitting there to have
because
a drink
they don't have running water. First of all, they only bathe once every month. Because that costs money.
It must
be. You had to go pay money to go get bathed. You know, they had to pour the water in the tub. They ain't had no Water and Sewage Corporation.
Every time I see the women with those big bulky dresses, I'd be like,
And no. Excuse me. That's why they had that.
What?
Those are what you call your smell barriers. Okay? See, everything for a purpose. You don't want to be, let me tell you what you don't want to be doing, Rogan Smith. You don't want to be fooling with no, I got nothing to bathe with, and yoga pants. Okay?
He said it's the barrier, kid.
Okay? You need layers, so when they fluff up, everything's safe.
But if it go boom?
Yeah, but you don't have no boom.
If you raise it up?
They had several layers. They had about 3, 4, 5, 6 layers.
But I'm making it sweaty.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, and I don't like saying it. I'm not comfortable with it. Let's just talk about general smells. What I'm saying to you is, okay, that when you're in Tombstone, okay, and there's no showers, I don't even think there's ever a river near there, okay? It's rough. This is why, by the way, do you know this is why perfume was a big deal in Europe when they would get spices and stuff from the Orient and all that? This is why they were so sought after. It was covering the fraus.
But it doesn't even cover.
But it covered better than the fraus. Okay? Because you remember now, a lot of walking going on.
Not a rubber.
Okay? Riding on a horse. Okay? But the ones I think about, though, is those poor cowboys out on that range for 3-4 months.
And just talking about this makes me thirsty.
Okay? And then they got to come into the saloon. Everyone wearing gun. And their best refreshment is a shot of whiskey. What you say to me?
Pow pow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if you would, what I'm saying to you, sir, is I'd like to offer you a cool drink. Okay? But do you know the story of ice? I forget the name of the guy. I think his name was Torrey or something. Okay? He discovered how to cool, to keep ice cool. And they literally shipped ice from the colder climates to the southern climates. And stored it for months in basements and stuff.
Isn't that brilliant?
Okay? And then some guy who was a doctor invented air conditioning. A black man invented the refrigerated truck. All of these things. But think about the fact that how we take cool drinks. Mm-hmm. It's hot. Man, I gotta get me a cool drink. Mm-hmm. No, if you said that in 1800, man, I gotta get me a cool drink. From where? Okay? Where you getting that? Because it wasn't like going down to the store or going to your fridge. Mm-hmm. There's no fridge. Okay?
Difficult times, my friend.
So it's, do you remember the Ice House?
Over here?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about, was it, hold on. Was it like in the Kennedy subdivision area, kind of like?
No, it was in the Nassau Guardian area.
Okay, well.
You know where McDonald's is?
Yeah.
In Thompson Boulevard?
Yeah.
It was kind of west of that.
Okay, no.
Between that
Maybe
and
I'm thinking
Drive.
about Fox Ice.
You're thinking about, you're thinking about people who make ice. You're just modern world now. People who sell and make ice like Chili Willy and them.
Like,
No, that was Holiday Ice and all that.
Area
they had Ice Depot and thing. Yeah. No, this was a place called the Ice House where you would go and buy block ice.
A whole big slab.
A block, yeah. And then you have to chip that off, man.
What, you carry it home and chip it?
Well, if you had functions, you chip it. Yeah, carry it home, put it in your ice box. Yeah, man. Ice was I remember the Ice House where I remember they had these tongs where the people would ride around and sell ice and deliver ice.
Really?
Yeah, man.
No, I don't know about
Things
that.
was tight. And that's why I think, I don't know, about global warming, and I believe in global warming. Don't let me go into Trump mode. By the way, I like my visa. I think that it could possibly be a combination between us becoming so acclimatized to our lifestyle of living in air conditioning that I just can't take the heat out there, man. I was growing up, there was no AC.
I'm reminded every time the power goes out, I'm reminded of that.
But you have to understand, when I was growing up, right?
It's crazy.
No one I knew had AC. No one I knew. You go outside, you play all day during the summer. When you come inside, it feels cool. You're in the shade. You didn't go bathe your skin. So we have. I think we have evolved to less tolerance for one. I mean, combined with the global warming.
I was always hot. I remember.
You was?
I'm talking not in that regard.
What regard?
Just with regard, you're being head. But anyway, being head. But I used to play with my cousins and stuff outside all the time. This is like in the Mackey Street area. My aunt didn't have air condition, and it was hot outside. And when I went inside, it was even hotter. So I never felt like, at least in here I'm in the shade. It's always been hot. Always.
I was answering something with our guest.
I see.
But I felt I don't know if I don't remember feeling hot. I mean, you were hot, but I don't remember feeling like this oppressive. It's hot out there now. Don't you find it's hot out there now? Or no?
No, it's a scorcher. Yeah. Yesterday was bad.
We ain't in August,
That's the best month of the year.
See, this is why, when I told you off the air and you off the air what I would do for that $36 billion. And the reason why is this. The people who have that kind of money, you know what they do, right? They travel with the seasons.
So they can go to different places.
Oh, yeah, they have a house in Vermont.
Uh-huh.
So when this stuff hit down here.
They go up to Vermont. When it's cold, then they come to the Bahamas.
And anything in between.
They go to Exuma.
Okay, they got a house on the Mediterranean or whatever the deal is. That's what they do. They ain't fooling with this heat.
I'm
What you could do if you had the $36 billion.
I don't need $36 billion for that.
It helps.
I'm on track. $36 million would be okay.
You can't have that kind of lifestyle.
I absolutely can have that lifestyle with $36 million, bro.
Okay, go ahead.
That's 4 houses in 4 different places. You think I can't do that with $36 million?
I think it's tight.
It's not tight.
But I can tell you one thing.
I'm not an extravagant person.
It ain't tight with $36 billion. No tightness.
That's all right. I'll do it 36 mil.
Okay, all right.
And I'm an ambitious person, but I could do that with 36 mil.
Well, let me ask you a question. When you get 36 million, you didn't give me any?
Kendrick, let me ask you something.
I told you I would give you some of the billion.
This is not Kendrick. I need you to come on the mic, please. What did he say he would give to us? But by the way, he said he's changing his number.
He said
he's changing his number. You always say no million.
Didn't I say I was going to a million each?
No.
Yes, I think it was even more than a million.
No, sir. You said, well, it depends on how much I get, first of all.
I think it's more than a million, and I think that I just said don't bug me no more after that.
No, you didn't give me a specific number. You said it depends on how much you get, because you don't know how much you're going to get. And number two, you already told me you're changing your phone number. So.
Is our guest here? No? Oh, no, I'm just asking. I don't know what's going on. So the question is,
how much am I going to give you?
Yeah, you would get a percentage, man.
Anyway, let me tell you what I'll give you. Okay, give me a figure what I win.
If I won 39 billion, if I had 36 billion, I would give you 5 million.
Anyway, I guess beggars can be choosers. Okay, so.
What's that?
I say I guess beggars can be choosers.
Well, what, you want me to give you $1 billion?
No.
Come on, that's unrealistic.
Like 50 million.
just take your 5 million.
Okay.
And be happy.
Because I deserve
you
it.
See that?
Okay, that's
you
fine.
See the kind of people who you say, well, why you ain't give me 50 million?
But you know, if I had 36 billion, I'd give you more than that. You just show me who you are.
I don't show you anything.
You know what? I'll give you
I'm showing you 5 million.
3 million.
Okay, I'll happy to have the 3 million.
The 3 million.
Okay, I would be Rogan. Thank you very much for this 3 million. 3 million is a big deal.
Okay.
But no. Soka over there wants 50 million.
You want 36 billion.
Well, let me just be generous with the 5 million and see how it goes. Okay. But you don't go like, well, you know what? You know what? I don't really want that 5 million anymore. If it can be 50 million.
No, I'm going to take the 5. I'll take the 5. Thank you. And if I too had 36 billion,
you'd give me 5?
I'd give you 20.
Okay, well, that's very nice of you.
I stink like you.
Okay, well, that's fine.
I'll give you 20 million.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Take care of your family and give your daughter everything that I know you want to give her.
Yeah, there you go. Well, listen, I appreciate that. When can we get this 20 million?
I gotta check my lotto numbers. I played when I was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I gotta check. I think I'm a multi-millionaire. I just need
I mean that's good. Listen, can we make a pact?
Hold on, let me see what's here.
Can we make a pact? I tell you what, let's make a pact. This is a pact. You're gonna make the pact?
Let me hear what the pact is first, buddy.
No. I think the level of trust that we should have had over these years, that you should know that whatever pact I make, it's going to be mutually beneficial to both of us.
Okay, let's hear. Well, first of all, you're a man who told me you're changing your number the minute you win.
We're making a pact.
Let's go.
This is pre-win. Can we make a pact?
Okay, go ahead. Let me hear the term.
No. That's not the answer I'm looking for. Yes, we can make a pact. That's what you can say.
Sure, we can make a pact.
Okay. And I will make it with Ken. He's in the room.
Okay.
That if either of us win a lottery, we'll split it 3 ways.
Nope. I think I'm holding on to some winning numbers.
Okay, because you think you hold on to some winning numbers. And you're calling me stink. You're at another level of stinkness.
I give you 4 times the amount of money you would give me.
The pact is, and it isn't because I'm holding on to some tickets now, and therefore don't want to be in that pact. If we win the thing, we would split it 3 ways. Now I got to split it 4 ways. You tell me I got to split it with Candy too?
You wouldn't even think about Candy. That's the kind of person I am. I'm thoughtful.
Yeah, well,
even
good.
in her
All right, we'll
absence.
split it 4 ways.
No, we're not going to split it 4 ways. But if I'm holding on to this winning ticket, which I think I am.
Yeah, so you don't want that to be in the pact.
No, but I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give you Kendrick and Candy money.
But it's pact free.
Yes, but you have my word.
Because why? Because you bought that before the pact? Because you bought purchases before the pact?
Yes. Precisely.
Boy, I tell you. Now watch where that pack up when she finished finding that ticket.
If I win the amount of money
all of a sudden,
I play in for,
she back in
Kendrick,
the pack.
I give you 3 million. What's your name? I'll give you 3 million.
How much money are you playing for?
I can't tell you. But
it can't be find out. I mean, it's a general lottery.
Listen.
What is it, 100 million?
I'm a winner. It's more than that.
You're not going to win it, just so you know.
See, okay, the money gone. Kendrick, you get 6
million. The money
gone?
You
get 6 million.
The money gone? Excuse me. The money is gone?
The money off the table.
I don't want to be involved in this particular lottery ticket because you're not including it in the pact. It's pact or nothing.
Kendrick, 6 million for you, 3 million for Candy.
Well, you know what? As a result, I'm forced to put a case on you. Okay? You will not win. Okay? You will not win. And therefore, Who cares what you do with you and Ken money? Okay. All right. And if you do win, you know what it can be? One of them scratch and sniff where you win $58. You win 58 because you get one number or something like that. And you probably have to share that 58 with 300 people.
My number and my thing I'm inside my box at home.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't travel with that.
Well, let me tell you something. The case has already been applied. Okay? There's a way to reverse the curse.
Who jobless, no man curse.
There's a way to reverse that curse. Put it in the pack. Put it in the pack. Putting it in the pack automatically reverses the case. Okay? But right now, as we speak, your number is under a curse.
My number's days are numbered.
Yes. We'll be right back. Listen, we got a very special guest this afternoon.
Oh, she's here.
Okay? I don't go down to how many varies I did?
Oh, I don't know.
I did? Okay, let me add 2 more. Very, 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 very special guest this afternoon who, we're very honored to have. And it's going to be a very interesting and very, we have these guests from time to time who have spanned a period of our history, Rogan, right? That, just in our conversation with them, we find out all sorts of things. Like, remember when we had Eileen on?
Yeah.
Karen, she's a pilot. Who would have known? All right, so anyway, and I was reminded by our guest who is on today that she's a pilot. So we'll be back with our guest in a few minutes, but if we have to clear up a couple of things, and then we'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In a couple of minutes, we're going to bring our very special guest on, Janet Bostwick, and talk about I guess, it's fair to say, the history of women in this country, because she certainly would be knowledgeable and certainly has lived a lot of it. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation. But you were commenting, big guy, on the fact that Sarah Sanders is leaving the White House. She must see the writing on the wall. That's sometimes, sometimes people jump that ship,
When they know,
When they know. Because, it can be interesting to see who replaces her.
Yeah.
Because to find another person willing to lie like her.
Boy,
she was lying straight through. Okay?
She had his She had his love and support, boy.
She had something. I mean, did you see the one clip where apparently there was a blow up with the Speaker and Schumer and Trump in the White House when they were talking about the infrastructure bill, and Trump was trying to tie it to something else. And then afterwards he said, "Now tell them, did you see me blow up? Did you see that?"
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and then she says, "Oh no, I didn't see you blow up, and I've seen you blown up, so I know that wasn't a blow up." It was just like, it's like being in. Now you can tell them what you saw. I'm just like.
Did he blow up when you asked him?
I don't know. Okay. I mean, I don't know why they would have said he blew up if he didn't blow up. And of course, he's not credible with me.
He's not credible, but they are also, people do blow things out of proportion with him. And there's no need to blow things out of proportion because.
Well, that's the point is, was it blown out of proportion? Did he come in and be pissed off? And
I think probably, I didn't see
you don't know. And no one was in the room. But the New York Times and stuff reported it was blowing up.
Sometimes with Trump. I mean, I know he's an easy target, but sometimes they do really just exaggerate. And it's like, come on.
But he apparently he's upset with the polls now, and so listen to this. So last night I was watching it, and apparently they're internal polls. These are their polls that's showing that he's losing in 17 states. Okay, so when they ask him, these are his internal polls now, and that he's upset with it, and he said to them, according to reports, that don't bother with those polls. So when they ask him, so what do you think about these internal polls? Oh, we're leading in every state. Now. Again, I'm not there. I'm not here. It's either they winning or they losing. You know what I'm saying? But he says, oh, no. We're winning in every single state.
He said every single
Every
state.
one of those polls were taken in. But the poll.
That you did. That your people didn't.
But he says, no, that's all right. We're winning in every single one. Now, maybe it'd be something to say, it's too early to deal with the polls at this stage of the game or whatever. But to go the complete opposite. Mm-hmm. Because now. So they're lying then. See, one time, I remember I told you someone said something to me, and I said, I was advised that you said this particular thing. And they said, no, I never said that. So what I said to the person was, okay, so let's suppose, can you tell me that Rogan told me, Rogan told you something bad? So I didn't feel comfortable with it. So eventually I confronted Rogan. I said, Rogan, Ken told me that you said X. And you go, no, I never said that. So once that person said to me, I said to them, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to believe you and not Ken.
Oh, I remember you telling me something like this.
So there you go, okay? Now suppose Ken is like a pastor of a church, okay? I'm choosing to believe you over the pastor, okay? So we good? We good. All right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the dilemma you're in with this normal circumstance, right? Oh, everyone is saying that, but you said no, so what? I'm going with you.
Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it with Donald Trump. I mean, I've tried to understand it because, I mean, things are just so blatantly obvious. And when you talk about a poll that his people conducted, I mean, I'd rather just say I have no comment or something, but to lie and say, oh no, we're leading in all of them.
Polls or whatever.
You know?
No, we're winning, yes. It's the complete opposite of what they said.
I just don't understand it.
Well, the thing that bothers me the most is this, and you know this is the thing. So you try to be logical, you try to be fair, and you say, okay, if I was accusing you of stealing microphones, Rogan Smith, and I said, what I need is for someone to come down to your house and check to see if the microphones are there. Well, two things. One, even if you did steal them, you'll stash them. But you will still say, yeah, come on down and check to see if the microphone's there, because then that's the end of that.
Or I might say, don't blame me. I ain't steal no microphones.
But
you don't come into my house.
No, but here's the problem.
Because that's a
once
possibility
you do that,
too.
that is a possibility, and that's why I don't want you to say that. Because once you say that, you've stolen the microphones.
No, no, but you have to also allow. You have to also think that there is a possibility that the person might be insulted that you would suggest that they stole a microphone.
I understand that.
And they can be very dismissive of your request to come on down and check.
But if you're a public servant in the public domain, I'm subpoenaing you. No, I'm not coming.
Well, that's a different case, obviously.
I'm not coming.
That's a different case, obviously.
I mean, go there and then lie. But don't go, I'm not coming. Because why? Because in the logical world, and again, I'm going with the not guilty until proven innocent, right? In the logical world, why wouldn't you? If you're innocent, you're saying you're innocent, why wouldn't you? You didn't steal the microphones? Listen, man, come check everywhere in my house. I got a microphone. And then when they leave, go get the microphone out the bush and bring it back in.
Considering Trump, let me not call him Trump. Considering President Trump's behavior in office thus far, and I don't know if he's going to be reelected. I want to say yes because I don't know that he has a strong opponent yet. But let's just say he isn't reelected. I mean, how do you think the White House and operations are going to look with another person? I mean, do you think they're going to be held to a higher standard, or has he destroyed has he
the next person could say, I'm not going to do the subpoena.
Right.
They're going to have to test them in court. Those things will be tested in court. Those things. And then it'll be affirmed that, no, you cannot refuse otherwise. See, like, this is why this girl Hicks, you know, the one who just, okay, she's talking. You know why she's going to talk? I mean, go obey the subpoena. She can't afford not to. Because by the time they take her through court and all that, anyway, listen, we're going to run. We're going to take our guests, bring our guests in, and we'll stay tuned. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. In a couple of minutes, we'll do a shout-out in our next break, we'll do a shout-out to all of our sponsors and make sure they're taken care of. But we're very lucky today because I don't know if she does this a lot.
Is this our first time on our show? No,
yeah, on our show for sure. Yeah. And I don't know if she does a lot of shows, period. So I'm very, grateful is the word, and appreciative that she would bless us with her and grace us with her presence. And that is, and which will always be, the Honorable Janet Bostwick, who now, I'm sorry, my history is, so I got to put this plug in there, history is confused. You were the first not member of Parliament, female member. You were the first female member of Parliament, right?
First female member of the House of Assembly.
Right.
Now you remember Parliament is both houses.
Right.
It's the House of Assembly as well as the Senate.
Right.
Doris Johnson was in the Senate.
Right.
And so was Bertha Isaacs.
Okay.
A number of PLP women were in the Senate.
Right. Did Doris Johnson have a portfolio?
She was appointed Minister of Transport for a period, yes.
Okay. All right. So the first member of the House of Assembly, member of Parliament from the House of Assembly.
We like to say the first woman elected to Parliament.
There you go. Yeah. See, you're straightening me out already. Let me put this up there. So that's already, it's amazing. How do you? Let me ask you. As I told you, we have a conversation. We just go all over the place. How I'm not the first of anything. Although, we were the first to be on the air on private radio, but it's not a big deal compared to the first. How does it feel to just, when it's happening, it's an historical moment. Do you feel the gravity of it?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. I did. Immediately upon election, and please excuse me.
Yeah, sorry. Take your time. Maybe sneezing, coughing straight through out.
When I ran, there was also a lady who ran, Miss Bridgewater, for the PLP in the Yellow Elder area.
Okay.
And she had a good chance of winning. It was the first time the PLP had put up a woman in a seat where she had a chance to win.
Because Yellow Elder was a PLP.
It was,
yeah.
I call it Yellow Elder. It may not have been called Yellow Elder. It was in that vicinity. And remember, she had a presence. She was a head of the BCPOU and all of this, very well-known person.
Okay.
Before then, they had Dame Doris, who ran against George Baker in Eleuthera. Come on now.
Yeah, that's like...
And then poor Miss Tertullian to run against Pop Simonet.
In Shirley. Yeah. They're not serious.
Not serious at all. They were not committed at all to being women in having women in politics.
And let's put you up against the most difficult candidate.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister at the time.
And then I ran in 1977 and was not successful. I ran in Pinedale, which was a black belt constituency.
Right.
And I gained the greatest number of opposition votes in a black belt area.
Okay.
And so I think after that, people started to think seriously maybe women could be involved in this.
Yeah.
And when I ran again in 1982, Bridgewater was put in a seat where we really felt that she would win. And then the results came in. And in 1982, whenever you go into these elections, in your opposition, you're all hyped up. Yeah. We're going to win, we're going to win, So the party was going to win.
And you can't go over thinking you can lose.
No. And then the results came in, and I found out my party had lost, and I had won, and I was the only woman who had won, and my husband had also lost.
He was in Andros, right?
He was in Andros. That's another sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
Because
that's like Loftus Roca and
going against those
and Darrell Roll.
And Darrell Roll and all those and Andros. Come on, you're joking.
Yeah. And Pinling is in Andros
exactly.
as well.
But Henry is one of those people who feel you can do
fight the fight.
And I honestly felt almost a physical weight. It was like an awesome responsibility because immediately I knew I was going to be the only woman in a parliament of men and the first woman. And I recognized immediately that I had a responsibility to perform and to perform well, or else women would be forever relegated. They could not make it if I did not make it. You see,
and the thing, just to this point, not only were you the only woman, but what would the complement of opposition versus government MPs have been?
I think at that time we had 11.
Oh, but still that means you're still thrust into a leadership role.
And we had a good 11. We had a fantastic 11.
I was going to ask you, what was it that really drew you into the political arena? Because we talk about how tough it is for women right now to get elected in this country, and you're talking about a completely different time where they were less tolerant. So what was it that really? What was the catalyst of all that?
I was not unaccustomed to being in a man's world, you see. Yeah. I was saying to Ed, when I was called to the bar, I was the first woman, I was the sixth woman called to the Bahamian bar.
Isn't that remarkable? 6.
There were 5 others. Pat Causey, and she practiced sometimes before the court. And then there was Eileen Caron, who did not practice. There was Jeannie Thompson, Ruby Nottage, and Alva Stewart Coakley. I was the 6th woman, but I was the first woman who had come through the system of articles.
The articleship, right.
You know. Yeah. And then, after I was called to the bar within months, I was switched from my area, which I thought would be land and all those matters. I worked in the Attorney General's office, and I became a prosecutor. And that was the first time
After
a woman...
6 months?
Less than that.
Wow.
Less than that. And it's interesting because I was pregnant at the time.
What?
Pregnant with John.
You had the full Monty.
With John.
The stereotype, pregnant women
yes.
in the workplace.
That's right. and prosecuting.
Yeah.
There was a joke. Smokey Joe. I don't know if you remember Smokey Joe. Eugene DePuch. He used to write this article, Smokey Joe. And Smokey Joe wrote one time, he said that this man came to him and said, Smokey, time for me to go. Time for me to go. He said, what do you mean? He said, time for me to die. He's seen all kind of things happening.
The Lord got to take him.
You know, this ain't right. This ain't right. At the end of the world. He said, what happened, man? He said, man, I had to go to court. I go to the court and I see this woman there. And she tried prosecuting. And she big. And she tried putting man in jail. Ain't right. This world gone crazy. No, yeah. And yeah,
I was. That
was in 1971.
But it's still hard to believe, right? I mean, I know the 70s. I was in the 70s. I would have been in high school. It's still hard to believe that was still a barrier.
That was a barrier. Women couldn't even sit on the jury. Women were fighting to sit on the jury. You know, you must think about it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We got the right to vote in 1962. We did not have the right to sit on boards. You know?
This is crazy.
This was a crazy world.
Oh, my God.
Come on, you know?
To us, it seems almost absurd. To you, it was very serious.
It was more than serious, you see?
Yeah.
And it was definitely a man's world.
Yeah.
And who do you think you are?
Yeah.
And it was not only who do you think you are by men, but also by women.
Yeah. That's what's always astonishing to me.
Because so many of them felt that you were letting women down. Yeah. Your place was supposed to be in the house, raising the children, and you're going getting up in men business, you know. And
the women almost like the man who say, "But what's going on?"
Absolutely.
You're throwing everything off course.
When I first ran in 77, I used to get that so much. What are you doing? You should be home with your children and all the rest of it. And very angry at me and annoyed, you see. And your place is in the house. And I always tell the joke. I got that so much in the 1977 election that when I decided to run in 82, our team had aprons. And they had on it, Janet's place is in the house, ... of assembly.
I love that.
Janet's wearing that.
I love that.
And men and women used to be wearing my aprons and going on, you know.
Now, Janet, before we get into some, and you know, I know we're going to run out of time because there's just so much stuff. But I want to ask, just prior to your public persona, I want to know some more stuff about you. I mean, there's interesting stuff that I don't know if you're going to talk about your family, you know, the relative. I'm having this recollection. You're related to someone who I don't think that we would believe you're related to.
Now,
who is that? Who is that?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
We can talk. We'll say on the air, and then we'll talk about it off the air. But you obviously went to school in the Bahamas, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. What did you do before you were before you decided to go into law, before you articled?
Well, that decision, Henry is involved in so many of the decisions, the very important decisions in my life. We went to high school together, and we were high school sweethearts and all the rest of it. I, in my early life, wanted to be a doctor. My parents did not have the money to send me to school, and so I had to go to work.
We've heard this story amongst other people.
And you see, I'm a Musgrove.
Right.
There was one boy, Louis, my one brother, and then there were 5 girls. I was the first girl.
Maybe Willie?
Willie
Moss?
Yeah, Willie
is my baby sister.
Yeah, right.
She's not the one I'm not supposed
No. I can talk about after.
I know what you're talking about now. I know what you're talking about now.
But it shows the linkages of Bahamian history.
Yes.
You know?
Like Charles Carter and I are very close friends.
Yeah.
So that's a connection.
That's another connection.
Okay.
All right.
The close cousins, sorry. So I had to go to work. I had done high school and graduated, and then the government high school had a postgraduate course.
The A-levels?
They call it commercial course.
Commercial, okay.
And it was secretarial and bookkeeping.
Because that's what y'all could do.
That's what we could do. You know?
Type.
Type and shorthand. But also they did bookkeeping and commerce.
Okay.
You see?
Okay.
And it was a year postgraduate course.
Okay.
And so I took that. And so you had some of the better secretaries and the bookkeepers come out of that.
Okay.
And so many of us went higher, like Rodella Times, like Joan Sawyer,
Right.
So many went very much higher.
Right.
Okay, so having taken that, I was head girl at Government High School, and I had gone to Government High School on a scholarship. And Dr. Pegs, the headmaster, called me in. And he said he had a job interview for me at the Public Service Commission. I said, no, thank you, sir. I have a job. I had a job at Navios Corporation. On Village Road, which was going to pay me £12.10 per week.
A fortune.
12
pounds.
£12
That's like what? That was like
week.
$6 a.
No. £10.10 was $30.
Okay.
So this
that's right. The dollar was more. The pound was stronger than the dollar.
At that time, sorry. So he hit the roof. How dare you? The government of the Bahamas has paid for you. How ungrateful can you be? And you're talking you have a job? No, you do not have a job. You will go for the. Okay. And so I went for this interview at the Public Service Commission. There were these 3 big men. White and not so white, British and and another one. They interviewed me. It was headed by Sir Dudley. I remember him. And
never ignore me. Ignore me. Dudley Do Right from the Bullwinkle.
And so they gave me dictation, and I was always a nervous person, shy and all this. And they picked up an Act of Parliament man head and said, Commonwealth, it was the Bahamas, it was a colony then, and then we started to read off. By Her Majesty the Queen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, blah, 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 and they went on. And be it enacted, commencement, blah, blah, blah. And he's reading like I'm speaking to you now, and I'm trying to write, to take that. And language which I had never heard. You sit in court, you sit and you hear them when they reading off these bills and stuff. Come on, a different language, foreign. And then he said, all right, read it back. I said, Holy Spirit. I felt, and I started to read back. I hadn't gotten so much of it,
Right.
And I was trying, and after I got, so he said, all right. You missed quite a lot of it, but you made very intelligent guesses. and he talked, and he said, we will employ her, and you to go at the Attorney General's office, and you will be making £10 a week.
So they cut you by 2.
£2.10, but that was a blessing. because at that time they were hiring in the government at £7 a week.
Okay.
So this was 50% more than my colleagues were getting in other parts. So boy, it's in the Attorney General's office. You know that I am deeply spiritual, and I believe my steps are ordered by the Lord.
Yes.
You know,
And of course that's where you got your exposure to the
that's
law.
where I got. Except that I got also the exposure through my husband.
Right.
I remember when we were having a high school career week thing, and we went, and everybody was going to say what were their goals, and he got up and said his goal was to be a lawyer. By that time, I knew I could not go to university, and I got up and said my goal is to be a lawyer's secretary. Wow. That was Henry's. I was doing that.
Yeah. You're trying to be cute.
Real cute. And everybody who nobody think, lawyer secretary. Okay, so
a little code.
That's what that was. So there I was in the Attorney General's office, and I worked hard in the Attorney General's office. It was at the time when the Attorney General's office was in the Supreme Court building, right upstairs in the major Supreme Court building.
Right.
And you also had the Judicial Department, that was the Supreme Court office itself. And you had the registry, the used to be Registrar General, because we did not have really like a Supreme Court registry as such. And then you had the head of the magistrate. All the thing was contained in that one building.
Was the law library in there too?
Law library, everything in that one building, you know. And the building is extended now because you go up on like a third floor where the law library is. That was not there. It was only 2 floors there. Okay, so I'm in there, and I used to work hard. We used to have the keys over at the police station. And sometimes I would be there so early, I would go and pick up the key to open up the place. So I'm there 7 o'clock, and I worked late in the night and stuff. And I was one of the very few darkies in that building.
The darkies?
You know?
Now, when you say darkies, what do you refer to?
My complexion, I am not joking.
Do you mean to say, Janet, in the politically correct term, coloreds?
That's not even politically
I mean, but with the hue.
Okay.
With the hue.
You're the dark side of the coloreds.
If you were fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was a little darky.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, dear.
Oh, yes. It's true.
A different time, eh?
Oh, yeah. It was a different time. I know across from us was the registry, and there was not one.
No darkies?
No.
Yeah, it was what you would call darky free.
No, they were the
Okay, you have Coke Zero? Darky Zero?
No.
Okay.
Zero. And then in the Judicial Department, there was the bailiff. He was a darky, but the secretaries, you know, I'm saying that. You know.
He was a man of color.
Yeah, he was a man of
color. Yes.
A darker hue. Yes, you see. And in our office, the Attorney General's office, it was me and Michael Horton.
Okay.
Michael Horton was the thing. But the secretaries were fair, very fair. Anyway.
Well, the whole of Bay Street was like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the banks, everything, right?
Everything, yeah. and you know, and
you know, I think people don't understand, Janet, where, you know, how we diminish, I think, how far we have progressed. You know, you always hear people talking about well-being, this and that, but they don't realize. Yeah. You know, the darkies have come a long way. We'll be right back. So I'm here with Janet Johnson. Janet Bostwick. I've known Janet Johnson all my life. You know Janet. Yeah. Janet Bostwick. And I tell you, man, folks, and Janet, you know, I hope. Are you doing it? Are you writing your story down?
I have not started it.
it's sad, I told this to C.W. Bethel, to cousin C.W. I told this to Orville Turnquest, and now I'm telling it to you. The reason why we're lost is because we don't know our past.
It's true.
Okay?
It's true. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start very soon because I hear it being told. Yeah. And it's not
correct.
No,
it's not correct.
See, what you're talking about now is, Basil Johnson, Felicity did a wonderful job with her father's story. Yes. And that people were just enthralled with that. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that was third party, okay? If you tell your story as you know it, then that's, there's no question what's going on. But I was asking Janet because I find these relationships in this country. In fact, I just saw something on Dame Marguerite about. I saw an article and someone sent me about who her father was and her heritage. Janet, tell us, in your own words, what your family heritage is.
Well, I'm a Musgrove. Mm-hmm. My father was Nicholas Musgrove, and he was from Turks and Caicos. His father was James T., a boat builder. Mm-hmm. I think.
That's why you like boating.
It's deep in the blood.
Just a fisherwoman,
Oh, I love fishing. Oh, I feel so. I'm lost right now because I haven't been fishing for so long, and I don't have any boat now.
You ain't got a boat?
I don't have a single boat. I'm lost. Anyway, so my father came here when he was 19 years old, and he never went back to the Turks and Caicos. He was from the Kew and Whitby area. Mm-hmm. My mother was a Bethel. She was and her mother was a butler. Mm-hmm. From the heart of Bainstown.
Milo and them?
No.
Okay.
No, another butlers.
Okay. All right.
My mother was her and C.W.F. Bethel were
Bethel Estates.
The Bethel Estates, yeah. Mm-hmm. They're first cousins, very close. They were very close. First cousins. Mm-hmm. C.W.F. used to refer to me as when sometimes he came up to Ministry of Foreign Affairs to bring me fruits and stuff. Cousin. And no, he used to leave the packages at the desk and say, "Tell our Uncle Charlie left it." Yes, C.W.F. He and Mommy were closest of the brothers. My mom lived for some time in Bimini with her father. Mm-hmm. And her father used to run the Fortune something.
Fortune Bay or something?
I can tell you in a minute.
It's like a fishing thing.
No, it was like a hotel thing.
Oh, okay.
But he, the Sapona, the sunken
treasure ship?
Sunken concrete ship that used to be used in the Prohibition time for the stacking of the liquor and all like that. It's in Bimini.
Again, history we don't.
Yes, it's in Bimini. It's a tourist attraction there. It's the sunken ship that was owned by my grandfather.
So John is your cousin.
Johnny Bethel. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. But what's interesting about that is, and I don't know to the extent our people are aware of this, and it's very important, that as divided as we seem to be, we all come from the same place.
We do, so many of us do.
And yes. Why have we, I mean, you would know this more than I. So when you were growing up, you would have been aware of your white cousins.
Yes, but I did not have a connection with them.
Okay.
Although I had a connection with my grandfather.
Okay.
You see? Okay. At that time, he lived on what is called Bolston Hills.
Right.
And sometimes we would go out there, not very often, but sometimes we'd go out there to spend the day with him. Mm-hmm. We had a bit of a closer connection. He was very, very reserved and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he was also born in October. Okay. And so he used to say that. And my mom used to have a grocery store, which is more like a convenience store on East Street, right where we lived. Mm-hmm. And every month he would come up and buy some of his stuff from her. Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about some of the fights that you've had. And we've got 15 minutes left. I can't believe it. It's just time is flying by, so you'll have to come back. I'm sorry. Women's rights. I mean, I remember in the 80s when I worked with The Guardian, the issue of just divorce. How there were only, if I recall, and I think I got this information from you, there were only 3 grounds that you could get. 2 grounds. Sodomy or
Adultery.
Otherwise, you couldn't leave your husband if you couldn't.
Yeah, you had to prove that. It was horrible. Yeah. And it was a fight.
And you fought those yes. changes, right?
Oh, yes.
I remember that vividly,
yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. You see, by then I was in our family practice.
Okay.
I had left the Attorney General's office. I left the Attorney General's office at the end of 1974 and joined Henry for Postwick and Postwick. But before that, Ed, I told you I used to be in that building, the Supreme Court building.
Right.
That's from 1957 I started to work there. Mm-hmm. And from my room, the window near my desk, I would always look across the Garden of Remembrance there.
Right.
And upstairs on the corner of Bank Lane
was the magistrate's court.
Was the magistrate's court.
That was family court, eh?
That was family court.
Right.
But they only met on Friday mornings. And sometimes, because we didn't always have the air conditioning, I could hear the cries of those women. You'd see them out there under the trees and stuff with their children, be quiet and stuff. Sometimes they brought the children to the court. And you would hear the cries because at 12 o'clock they would stop the court. And if your matter didn't come on, then you had to come back and come back and come back, you know.
And many of these women were abused women, and they didn't even have grounds under that. Abuse wasn't the grounds, right?
They were there at that time trying to get maintenance for their children.
Oh, okay.
And this is the thing which stirred me first of all.
Right.
And at that time, they had a maximum limit of maintenance for every child of £3, which was $8.40 when we converted to and that remained, that $8.40, until I was in Parliament per week. So long before you asked, first of all, how I got in politics. Long before I had a political.
No, you were an activist.
Persona. Yes.
That's what I remember you as. Yeah.
Yes, and I was fighting for children and for women.
And for years.
For years and years, you know. With regard to the change with the grounds for divorce.
Right.
You used to see people beaten. I would see people beaten, broken bones and everything. And they could not get a divorce because of cruelty.
Sodomy and adultery.
And that's it. You know, nothing else. or if one spouse had deserted another and been gone for 20, 60 years, they could not get a divorce.
How silly is that?
Could not get a divorce, you see? And, the whole rights of families and children and stuff, that was my platform. And
why do you think that the Bahamas, being a colony, didn't simply move with the progressions that the motherland moved with? Because the motherland got rid of a lot of this stuff way back.
Way
Why didn't we move in that direction?
I don't know. I what can I say?
Pure chauvinism?
I believe it had a lot to do with that. And I think it was powerful for men to have women as chattel, you see?
And they didn't want to relinquish.
that. I don't know if that was in any way peculiar to any class.
Yeah.
I think it was a
across
good,
the board.
Yeah, I think so.
And as you say, unfortunately, and even today, as you know, when we fought, because we're going to touch on this with the referendum, the fact of the matter is, if you look at the numbers, It's the women that are tilting the thing.
Yes.
Now, I don't think Henry was involved in the Constitution, was he?
Yeah.
He was involved in the Constitution.
Yeah. Henry was not. They only had 4 people who were opposition.
Okay.
But there was the attorney and Henry.
Right.
And no, so they were a part of the opposition delegation.
Okay. Because Orville Turnquist, right?
Orville Turnquist, Arthur Foulkes, Norman
Henry.
Solomon, and who's the other one? And then Isaacs.
Right. So what do you think? And I'm putting this as a challenging question to you now. So here's a man who, by all counts, was very supportive of you. Law never got in your way of your personal advancement. He was so pushed. What were they thinking in that room?
Yeah. They never came to that room. And I'm very proud to answer this question.
Yeah, let's answer that.
You see? Mm-hmm. Because the opposition and the government went to England,
right,
having dealt with all their concerns and battled out their things together, so that they went as a Bahamian group,
right,
working together to get a constitution.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
The Free National Movement has always been for the equality of men and women. And that was something which they put in from the very beginning and was battled with the other side and not won. But the Free National Movement's position has always been equality between
the sexes.
You know.
So what transpired then in that room or wherever it happened, where by the time the Constitution was formed, that obviously there was disagreement on that point, and that just was put in there?
No, there was not disagreement. By the time they'd gone there, they had already done all these battles. The UK had proposed what was the norm throughout just about
everywhere,
the whole of the Commonwealth.
Right.
That the woman would have the domicile of the husband.
Right.
The supremacy of you see, and that is what went, you know.
So that you know, when you talk about putting women to run and say, you know, Shirley, which is both demographically and politically impossible, you're saying that there's a class of men who you're saying associated with one particular party, but a class of men. I think it has to be across the board.
A class of men, yes.
Who just did not feel that women were equal. Simple as that.
They did not, and some of them still do not.
Well, yeah, obviously, I mean, based on our referendum.
Do not,
the sad part about our Constitution, I'm asking this to you as a lawyer, is that, you know, in most countries, and we've done the research, where we know that the rights of a minority is never, ever supported by the majority. You have to push through the rights of minorities. And that's reserved in many jurisdictions for the Houses of Parliament or the Houses of Congress, etc., because they're supposed to be the right-thinking people. And in our situation, both times, the parliaments, both Houses of Parliament, have voted in favor of these constitutional changes, but the flaw is that it has to go to the people.
That's not the flaw, you know.
Well, tell me what the flaw is.
The flaw is that the whole issue has been politicized.
Yeah, but you believe that if it hadn't been watered down, okay.
Why? And this was one of the most painful experiences I had in my political life. When we went in 2001 and stuff, we went through all these political changes and the constitutional changes. You had the full support.
Unanimous.
Full support. No questions.
Right.
And then Hubert Ingraham got up and said, you know, this is and it was totally the opposition changed, the then opposition PLP changed their stance entirely
because they didn't want to lose the election
and went full blast against it.
Right.
And saying that the people didn't understand.
Right.
They asked that this be voted against, and they said that they were going to bring it back within 90 days.
Which never happened.
It was, I don't know how many years, like 13 years or something like that, you know.
And then it became a tit for tat.
It became somewhat a tit for tat. But also what got involved in it was that it then became, and you had the deeply traditional church, because it got all mixed up with the gay agenda,
right.
And it had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. But that stole the thing, and people in the Bahamas, you know, you totally, and so they saw this as a way to get in, sneak in, you know. And
you would say it was worse than the darkies.
The darkies. To talk about the darkies,
but listen, you think then, because this is the test, that for the purpose of this one very, very important issue, and that is the equality of men and women without question, which, by the way, we are obliged to meet certain international conventions on, that if we put that question solely, one question, nothing else, out there to say we want to vote on a constitutional referendum that establishes the equality of men and women, and that, just that one question, without any politics involved, do you think it would win?
You have to go further now. You'll have to go further. You will have to.
It can't be that simplistic.
No.
You have to deal with same sex and all this sort of thing.
You will have to say that this does not, that marriage in the Bahamas can only be between a man and a woman. And there can be no, you have to some way incorporate that, because otherwise.
But then constitutionally, that's a problem globally as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're screwed.
Not
figuratively. Janet, boy, I tell you, it's a pleasure really to talk with you. I'm glad that you consented to come on. I'd like you to come on again sometime. We'll give it a couple of weeks or so, but because there's so much more. You know, and I just want you to be able to tell the Bahamian people your story. As you can see, and as I told you when we were talking, we're not a show about yelling. And you put it so wonderfully. What did you say? They're so, when you said they were so knowledgeable about everything, the pontificators.
Yes.
Yeah. She said, you know, you listen to these shows and they're so just expert on everything, you know. But we're here about, you know, I'm hoping that when our people who listen to our show listen and they hear people like Janet Bostwick on the air, that they get a picture of what happened in the past, where we've come from, come a long way, and that you're talking, as the young people would say, real. You're talking real. You're talking about the darkies, and because that's what it was.
It was.
It wasn't, you know, it was that, and they would tell you.
Yeah, you could be black, but don't be black.
Yeah.
You see?
Well, you know Uncle Bob? Remember Uncle Bob? Roderick Turnquist. Yeah. So Uncle Bob, you know, he was basic. So he said, basically, hard work is this. If you're in school, because they had mixed schools. The public schools were mixed. If you're in the school, when the Christmas break come, if you're white, you can be an angel. If you're dark, you can be the devil. As simple as that, you know? And in those days, hue mattered.
Oh yeah.
Big time.
Oh yeah.
Listen, what if you had to just, in closing, we're going to close up. How would you, if you look back on your career and it's storied, how would you summarize it? What would you want people to say? I know it's a cliche type of a question, but what would you want people to feel about Janet Bostwick? I mean, that must be important to you in some respects.
I would want them to think that she was real, and that I was truly committed, and am committed, to the advancement of our people, having no regard for sex or status, in social status or anything, the full advancement. I would want desperately for young women, in fact, to look at Janet and say, I can do it. Because if they were to know, really, and they need to know, I suppose, all of my antecedents,
Right.
from whence I have come.
Right.
And if I could do it, any one of them can do it, you know.
But you see, that's where our flaw is, and I go back to this writing again, because you see, people see people like you. A young person would see someone like you, and they assume you were always of this stature.
No.
You see, they make that assumption. People do that, but the lesson is where you come from.
Yeah.
That's the true lesson, you know.
But it's always important for people to tell. Younger folks will not know
if they don't tell it. That's why we
rowing
out now. That's why I row it out.
Yeah. I do tell. I do tell. And you know, I do have the privilege, particularly of sitting down with young children and young women, and I do tell. You see, I do tell.
Just a final question, but do any younger female politicians ever approach you for advice or anything?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do?
Oh, no. Not
or for guidance?
Not so much.
Okay.
Those who aspire to become politicians will approach, yes.
Okay.
But not so much those who are there.
They think they reach. They think they reach. That's what happened.
Not so much.
Listen, Janet Bostwick, the Honorable Janet Bostwick, thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. These type of shows are so easy. Trust me. Because you're just talking. We're talking as friends. We're talking as citizens. And, you know, people get to listen to it, you know, without the stress. You don't feel no stress, right?
No.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Rogan Smith.
Yes, sir.
If you want stress, be with Miss Smith all the time. I stress all the time. No, she knows I love her to death.
Like we say, she's your cooler.
She's my cooler. She's my cooler. You know that, right? Just like he was Henry Cooler. Ken, we will be back on Monday, and we will see you all, folks, or listen. Well, you listen to us hopefully on Monday. Have a good weekend. Yes.